And now for our main story. When we think about European churches, the image that often comes to mind is that of massive stone cathedrals, towering Gothic spires piercing the sky, intricate stained glass windows reflecting colored light, and grand structures that symbolize wealth, power, and centuries of history. But in Norway, something quite different took shape. Here, scattered across the rugged landscape, stand churches that look nothing like the stone giants of France, Germany, or Italy. Instead, they're built almost entirely of wood, known as stave churches. These remarkable buildings are among the most unique and mysterious pieces of medieval architecture in the world. So why does Norway's sacred architecture look so strange compared to the rest of Europe? To answer that, we need to journey back in time, exploring Norway's geography, resources, culture, and the fascinating story of how its churches came to stand apart. Norway is a country defined by its landscape. Mountains slice across the land, deep fjords cut into the coastline, and dense forests stretch for miles. For most of its history, this was a country isolated from the grand centers of power in Europe. Transportation was difficult, stone was scarce in many areas, and the people had to rely on what was close at hand. And what they had in abundance was vast forests of pine and spruce that provided shelter, tools, ships, and, eventually, their most sacred buildings. Unlike the great lords and bishops of Central Europe, Norway didn't have a wealthy class of landowners who could pour enormous resources into constructing massive cathedrals. In places like France or England, building a church was a way to showcase wealth, dominance, and devotion to God all at once. Stone meant permanence, stone meant power. But in Norway, with its sparse population and limited wealth, the approach had to be different. Communities still wanted places of worship, but they built them with the material most accessible to them: timber. This decision shaped the future of Norwegian architecture. By the Middle Ages, hundreds of wooden churches dotted the landscape. Today, only about 28 stave churches survive, but they remain some of the most breathtaking and unusual structures in Europe. They don't just look odd because of their wooden frames. Their design, with layered dragon-like carvings and steeply pitched roofs, almost feels like something between a Christian church and a Viking hall. And in many ways, that's exactly what they are: a bridge between pagan traditions and the new Christian faith. The stave churches get their name from the massive wooden posts, or staves, that form their framework. These were engineering marvels for their time, carefully fitted together without modern tools, relying on the extraordinary skill of medieval carpenters. Their steep roofs weren't just aesthetic, they were practical. In a land of heavy snow, steep angles meant the weight slid off before it could collapse the structure. Their wooden walls were often tarred with pine resin, protecting them against Norway's harsh weather for centuries. But there's another reason they look so unusual. Unlike stone cathedrals, which drew heavily on Romanesque and Gothic styles, stave churches often incorporated pagan imagery. Dragons, serpents, and animal motifs adorn their carvings. Some historians believe this was a way of easing the transition from Ixoan Norse mythology to Christianity, keeping familiar symbols while introducing a new faith. To the people of the time, these churches must have felt both foreign and familiar, Christian in purpose, yet rooted deeply in their own cultural heritage. Meanwhile, in other parts of Europe, church building became a symbol of centralized power. Wealthy monarchs and bishops poured money into monumental cathedrals like Notre Dame in Paris or Cologne Cathedral in Germany. These were not just religious spaces, but political statements, designed to show the world the might of their rulers. Norway, however, had fewer such powerful figures, and its rugged topography made transporting stone a near impossible task in many regions. Wooden churches were not just a choice, they were a necessity. As society evolved, so did the stave church. Some, like the Gull stave church, boast intricate carvings that tell biblical stories, showing the influence of Christian iconography. Yet, even within Christianity, there's a range. The Urn stave church features more abstract knotwork and spirals, hinting at the region's pre-Christian past. Over time, as Norway became more connected to the rest of Europe, stone churches did begin to appear, particularly in wealthier towns or bishoprics. But the stave churches remained the defining feature of Norway's countryside. Today, these churches stand as some of Norway's greatest cultural treasures. Visitors from around the world marvel at their strange shapes and dark tarred exteriors. Some, like the Borgen Stave Church, almost resemble something from a fantasy novel. Dark, wooden towers rising sharply against the mountain backdrop, decorated with carvings that look more like Viking longships than Christian chapels. Others, like the Heddlestave Church, have sprawling maze-like interiors that defy the unassuming exterior, hiding a vastness that seems almost alien to the small villages where they're found. Exploring these churches is like stepping back in time. The wood, though centuries old, is so well preserved in Norway's dry climate that it almost feels as if the communities that built them only stepped away yesterday. You can see the grooves left by axe heads, feel the texture of wood smoothed by generations of hands. It's a tangible link to the past, a reminder that every artifact has a story waiting to be discovered. Each stave church is unique, with its own layout, dimensions, and decorations. Some are simple rectangles, while others, like Hoppestad Church, feature polygonal walls that create an almost mystical atmosphere inside. The roof structures are equally varied, with some featuring the distinctive dragon's back profile, complete with decorative carved heads protruding from the ridge. Many of the stave churches contain intricately carved high crosses, their arms reaching toward the ceiling. These aren't just structural elements, they read visual testimonies to a culture grappling with a new faith and trying to forge a new identity in a changing world. But the appeal of the stave churches isn't just about their appearance or historical significance. There's something profoundly human about them. These structures are intimate, tucked away in valleys and by lakes, often surrounded by old cemeteries. They're not just places of worship, but community hubs, silent witnesses to births, deaths, marriages, and the everyday lives of the people who built them. Walking among the pews, you can almost hear the echoes of prayers, laughter, and songs carried on the whispers of the wind through the cracks in the walls. They remind us that architecture is never just about design. It's about people, history, and the environment in which a culture grows. In a world where churches were often grand displays of wealth and power, Norway's stave churches offer a quiet rebellion. They're a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of ordinary people, a celebration of the beauty that can be found in simplicity, and a reminder that faith can take root and grow in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when we release our next video. Thanks for watching.